issues during the broadcast, please call the Oregon Studio Hotline at 336-831-0864. Stations, your final time cue will be with 15 seconds until airtime. Mark, 15 seconds until airtime.
Oregon is going to the Final Four.
The following is a Learfield presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
Welcome to Duck Insider.
Man, it feels great to be a Duck.
Give it to me, baby. My house. I'm taking it there.
Their competitors, they'll want to put the O on.
Three, got it!
We're going to compete to a standard every day.
The Oregon standard.
Rebound. Up and in. 1.4 to go.
The opportunity to play, put Oregon on your chest, should mean a great deal to you.
Unloads on one into left field. Back toward the wall. Gone!
This program is staged to compete and to win championships.
Oregon wins!
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, let's talk Oregon athletics.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside the Country Financial Studio. Duck Insider brought to you by On Point Community Credit Union. I'm Jordan Brenner. Joey Mack is in Seattle on Win at Washington Wednesday. Now, everybody who follows this program and has been following for the entire year knows it means a lot to me to beat Washington. It means a lot to beat Oregon State. It means even more to me to beat the Washington Huskies. Win at Washington Wednesday, wallop Washington Wednesday. Whatever you want to go with, either works for me. Going to be a great show today. In a couple moments, we'll hear from Dana Altman. He gave his pregame thoughts at a media availability yesterday. So the head coach of the Ducks coming up. Rob Moseley joined us a little bit earlier this morning. He had to get over to some media availabilities. That interview will be played on today's show. And we'll also start getting into Oregon baseball season and hear from a couple players leading up to that opening 4-game series against Xavier coming up this weekend. But before we get to men's hoops, we have to talk about what happened on the golf course yesterday, an improbable comeback and a championship for Oregon women's golf, coming back and completing an epic comeback to win the 2023 Hessian Regional Challenge at Palos Verdes Golf Club. Are you kidding me? A 4-under 280 to chase down number 1 Stanford in the final round. Those two teams, it's rare you see it in college athletics just because there's so much turnover, but a real rivalry brewing between Oregon and Stanford. Of course, those two went at it in the national championship last year, and this time around, Oregon came out of nowhere and shocked the Cardinal. The number 5 Ducks entered the day in a tie for 4th. They were barely even in the conversation at 10 over par, 8 strokes behind the top-ranked Cardinal. That was until Oregon made a whopping 20 birdies as a team, and Stanford stumbled to a 9 over 293 on the day. Oregon didn't just win, they won by a comfortable 5 strokes. And how about the performance by the senior Ching-Tzu Chen, She led the Ducks all week, finishing in a tie for 2nd individually at 3 under par. Just closed on an unbelievable note with a 2 under 69 on Tuesday, matching her best career finish. And the only player she trailed is, well, the reigning national champion in the individual side of things, Rose Zhang, the number 1 ranked player in the world in the reigning NCAA championship champion. Amazing stuff from Oregon women's golf as they build into the spring season. Just really exciting stuff for you on a Tuesday afternoon. Let's, though, get into this matchup tonight on Win at Washington Wednesday. An important one for the Ducks, and it's always important when you get together with a rival, but looking at where Oregon is at the net right now, 48 up from 50. This team's right there. In fact, Joe Lenardi, Joey Brackets, the second most important Joey on this program, he had them as the last team in, or the first team out, I should say. So he comes up with 4 of the teams that aren't quite there, but are right on the precipice of breaking through. Oregon's the first team he listed. Now, Oregon is rooting for losses from teams that are with them in the first 4 out, notably USC, and the Ducks, I guess, jockeying for that final spot you'd expect, that third Pac-12 spot for the NCAA tournament. You're also rooting against the likes of Clemson and New Mexico, North Carolina, NC State. You got a couple ACC teams in there that Oregon's rooting against that have some impossible games, it seems, coming up on their schedule with Virginia, NC State, stuff like that. So you're rooting against those teams. And then in the Pac-12 standings, well, Oregon's down there right now. They're tied for 5th at 9-6 with Arizona State, but the Ducks do have the tiebreak over USC, who's 9-5, a spot in front of them, and the tiebreak over Utah, who is 10-5, a game ahead of the Ducks. And by the way, Utah plays Arizona this week, so you could expect a loss. That's at Arizona, unless Utah can do something miraculous. USC and Arizona, the top 2 teams of the conference, have started to separate. And, well, that brings us to tonight's game. The only matchup against Washington this year is schedule cork. These 2 teams just seeing each other once. So what does that mean is it means Oregon's going to have to get used to that Washington zone awfully quickly. That's one thing that the Huskies have always done under Coach Hopkins. They have these lengthy wings, these bigs whose arms go on forever, and they make it really difficult to penetrate that zone. And Oregon's going to have to be aggressive to get to the middle of that zone and get good shots off. And additionally, well, when you play zone, it's harder to rebound, and the Ducks have to punish the Huskies on the boards tonight. Under Coach Altman, the Ducks have been highly successful against Washington. 18-8 against the Huskies under Coach Altman, and 12 of the last 14. A historic rivalry, the first time these 2 teams met back in 1904. Pretty cool. So penetrate the zone, rebound well, guard the 4-man. It's been a struggle this year for Oregon. You look at guys like Jaime Jaquez and Azuolas Tubelis for Arizona. Those 4s had some of their biggest games of the season playing against the Ducks. The Huskies' best player, you could make the argument, Keon Brooks, a transfer from Kentucky who has 22 points or more in 4 out of 5 games. He plays the 4-2. Got to shut that young man down. Not exactly going to let you up from 3, you'd expect, but boy, he can handle it and get to the rim. So those are my keys to the game, but let's hear from Coach Altman. He was at Matthew Knight Arena yesterday previewing this tilt with the Huskies. Win at Washington Wednesday. Here's the head coach.
Just the strangest of playing an opponent the first time this late in the season?
Yeah, with the conference schedule, it is a little different. We only play Washington once, so it is different. Guys are getting ready for it. A little quicker turnaround than we usually have, but nothing unusual. So spirited practice yesterday. The guys bounced back a little bit. So it's going to be a big game for us.
It seems like they've played competitively, even though they're on a 4-game losing streak against.
Oh, absolutely. They just had a tough stretch. Arizona at home and 2 LA schools at Washington State. Been a very tough stretch, but played tough down in LA. So had a close ball game with Washington State on Saturday. So yeah, they just had 3 road games in a row, and Arizona on the tail end of a homestand there. So yeah, they've just had a tough stretch.
Tougher to attack the 2-3 when outside shooting has been the issue that it is. If it's not
sure. Yeah, and if you look at their defensive numbers, they're only giving up 31% from 3. So they're doing a good job there. But it is more concerning. We've really struggled at times from 3. But we do have, 4 guys shooting it at a decent rate. We have some guys that are way too optimistic with their shot selection, and we've talked extensively about that. I've just got to do a better job of telling them now. I mean, we've suggested for too long. That's on me. That's not a very appropriate shot selection when some of those shots are being taken, and that's on me.
Joe Lunardi has you guys as the first team out today, and obviously that's an imperfect science, and you don't play to be the first team out. But how would you describe the process the last several weeks of scrambling back into the position to at least be on the bubble at this time of year?
Oh, I don't know. Try to worry about what we can control, but it's been an up and down. You have no idea of how the committee will look at our early season with injuries, how they'll look at the late season. I don't know. I have no idea. So we've just got to control what we can control, and that hopefully is playing really well 8 o'clock tomorrow night.
Dante's at least played against the zone before, and it's not just their zone, but zones in general. For Nate and Khalil to go up against this for the first time substantively, certainly for Nate as well. How do you go about preparing them to go up against it? Try to, if you're not going to hit from outside as much, are you going to have to go inside of those guys? Well,
they have to be real active. You have a tendency, down low just to stand, and you got to stay active. That big guy they put in the middle of the zone, you got to keep him occupied, and so our bigs have got to be active. You still got to throw the ball inside some. Their length, will give us problems. They do a good job with their activity, and it is different. When you only play against it once, it does get you a little bit. So, and that's what they use, and as it's progressed through the years, teams get a little bit more used to it because it is a zone where they get up really high on the wings and try to deny the corners with those wings. There's a gap right in the middle, and they just want you to take contested twos all night in that middle. So you got to be careful of getting that, and you got to have somebody who wants to get in there, though, and make plays. And so it'll be interesting to see how our guys handle it. But to answer your question, the bigs really got to stay active. They got to pound the boards. With that zone, there are some rebounding opportunities. Their rebounding numbers, I'm sure are what Mike wants them to be. So, we've got to get on the boards.
What's the challenge of guarding Keon Brooks and just his efficiency of scoring the ball in the mid-range?
Well, he's really talented, really athletic, can make things happen from a lot of different spots on the floor. He's not shooting the three at a high efficiency rate, but he can shoot it, and he's just really active, and he's aggressive offensively. And because of his athleticism, he can get his shot, when he wants it. So he's a tough matchup, and we haven't done real well with the last 4 men we faced, so we're going to have to do a heck of a lot better job with him.
In that big picture, Dana, how do you feel that they've responded since Saturday, and that, like you guys said ahead and after the game, that you really needed it? And at the same time, there may still be a path via the bubble and stuff that you don't allow that to be necessarily deflating of like, oh, well, we missed that. That was our one shot. And then,
Yeah, no, they were down. I mean, we all were. We mad at ourselves mostly. We got kicked on the boards. Turned the dang thing over. And those are things we should have been able to control a little bit more than what we did. And so, we shot a higher percentage than UCLA, and they took 12 more shots, though, because of our turnovers and offensive rebounds. And that's, we just got to do a better job. So they were down, and we all were down Sunday, but new day, and you got to push through. And like I said, they were focused yesterday, but the enthusiasm, I was clapping my hands a lot. I should have put a skirt on, and cheerleader, I'm just, come on, guys, we're fine. We got to play. And you don't know what's going to happen. You can't control that. All you can control is getting ready for Wednesday night. So I think we'll be ready to go, but it's a tough place to play. they've been a good team at home. I think they're 10-5, 11-5 or something at home. So they've done well at home, and we'll have our hands full. There's no doubt about it.
How do you guys handle the logistics of this week? Because this one's a different one. Well, like I think the Cal trip, that was the
we stayed out, but that was Wednesday, Saturday.
Yeah.
We're coming back. Yeah, we're coming.
That's just unusual, is it not?
Yeah, no, it's obviously for TV. It's not something we're doing for us. So TV, I think, I'm not sure who we're on tomorrow night, but they wanted us to play Wednesday, Sunday, and so we got an extra leg. It's a little more expensive for us but you know, if they do away with travel partners in the future, there's some talk, you know, for TV and that, having some of our trips not be road swings, which would help TV. So there's a lot of things in the works, but it's not that big a deal. You know, we go down tonight, and we'll come back right after the game. We'll be in class Thursday and Friday, and fly out Saturday afternoon for a Sunday afternoon game.
Obviously, you don't think too far ahead yet, kind of a tale of two halves here. Do you think this team is at least on the brink now, at least back on the brink of being a team that can go with an Arizona, UCLA night after night, looking at things like the Pac-12 tournament?
Oh, I think so. I mean, our depth is good enough. You know, I don't think our guys would shy away from that type of challenge. But, you know, we're a long way from that. We got to live in the moment here. We've got to worry about Wednesday night and try to just put ourselves in the best position for that tournament. But, you know, I think that's 3 or 4 weeks away. Heck, I can't even look at Sunday. We got to worry about tomorrow night and try to get ready for that.
Head coach of the Ducks, Dana Altman, meeting with the media yesterday at Matthew Knight Arena. 8 o'clock tonight at Washington. Joey Mack has you covered for the pregame show at 7:30, ESPNU for the TV side of things. And by the way, for those who like to keep track of this type of stuff, the Wednesday version of Joey Brackett's Bracketology, that's Joe Lenardi's daily thing. Oregon's one of the last 4 in as of today. Not the first of the first 4 out, the last of the last 4 in. Got to keep climbing. Starts with a win tonight against the Huskies. Get a break, come back. The editor of GoDucks.com, Rob Moseley, talking hoops and all things spring sports. That's coming on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey, Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
This is an important message from the Mine Safety and Health Administration. Mining fatalities, accidents, and injuries are preventable. Taking a minute to approach your task safely can protect you and your fellow miners from injury and death. Staying alert and focused can keep you safe. Do it safe. Do it right. Whether buckling a seatbelt or securing equipment, these quick safety measures can prevent injuries and fatalities. Take time. Save lives. For more resources, visit MSHA.gov.
farming is dangerous. There's dangers all around us.
We go through safety training and try and do these things to make sure accidents don't happen.
You don't want to hit a gas pipe because that's your life. The other part of it is if you hit certain things, you're liable for it.
Farm Safe 811 starts with you. Always call 811 and wait for any underground lines to be marked.
Always keep safety in the back of your mind. Just stay humble.
For more information, go to farmsafe811.org.
Coming back on Duck Insider, we'll go back inside the Country Financial Studio. Duck Insider brought to you by On Point Community Credit Union. Earlier today, I had the chance to sit down with Rob Moseley. He had to pre-record today with interviews that will be coming on Duck Insider throughout the week at the Jane and at Matthew Knight Arena with women's basketball. Here's Mose from earlier today. Here in the Country Financial Studio, lucky to be joined by the editor of GoDucks.com, Rob Moseley. Rob, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
First and foremost, you get to go to Southern California. You go to Disneyland.
Yep.
The recap.
Yep.
What were the keys to success on what I hope was a productive trip?
It was kind of like our basketball seasons. There were some ups and some downs.
Okay.
And I don't just mean the roller coasters at Disneyland and California Adventure. Yeah, I
Well
went
played.
down. Yeah, my brother has 3 kids, and so I went down with his family, and we went to Disneyland and California Adventure Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of last week. Great success.
Mm-hmm.
Good times. It's always fun to experience something like that freshly, kind of through the eyes of a kid.
Yeah.
He's got 6-year-old twins, and they'd been there before when they were like 2 or something, but this was different. So
the first one they'll remember.
Right, exactly. So that was pretty great. I took he's got a 9-year-old as well, and I took him to his first hockey game Friday.
Awesome.
As it turns out, the Penguins were down there, my squad, and they beat Anaheim. So we were rooting against the Ducks, which was weird. He had a hard time with that because he's full Duck at this point. But the good guys won. And then the Penguins stayed in the area and played the Kings on Saturday and lost 6-0. And Sidney Crosby got kicked out of a game for the first time in his illustrious career.
Wow. An eventful trip.
While I was watching that, I was streaming the men's game against UCLA. That was kind of a downer as well.
Yeah, you talk about the ups and downs, the roller coaster. That was the dip.
And then the next day, I stayed down and covered the women's game at UCLA. And that was a bummer.
That was a bummer. Hey,
but it's a new week.
So you talk about comparing it to the basketball seasons, right? The ups and downs.
Yes.
The Rubik's Cube that Dana Altman can solve in the world of Disneyland has to be, when do you use your fast passes? How did you execute that game plan?
Okay, so my brother is younger than me, but he is full dad mode. Like we exist in different realities at this point in our lives.
So
he
you're the
had
younger
that
brother now.
Exactly. If not one of the kids, could be his oldest son at this point. Yeah. So they changed it now. There's like a lightning lane instead of a fast pass. It's basically the same concept. Like you sign up and then you have a window of time to go to a ride. But he was coldly methodical. I mean, it was always we're doing this and then we're doing this and then we're doing this. You have to pay a little extra for that option. You have to pay extra on top of the extra to do that for like a handful of rides, one of which is one of the new Star Wars rides. So we didn't do that. So like the one time we really had to wait in line, first thing Friday, like we got there right when the park opened, like we were on Main Street when they were holding people back, made a beeline and still had to wait like 45 minutes. But it was worth it, man. That ride's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what the 2 ones are called. There's the one where like you have all 6 people sitting in a thing and you ought to hit buttons at the right time, and that was pretty fun. And then then there's this other one that's all like kind of the Rise of Skywalker storyline, and it was pretty great.
That's pretty awesome. So
yeah.
Disneyland, you get to the hockey game, the Penguins, the Ducks. Is that the Waddle War? Do they call it that?
That they don't.
They should.
Marketing genius. Yeah. Ducks don't want any part of us.
No.
They wish they got they wish they got Saturday's version of the Penguins because we would have lost.
You got to be careful somebody doesn't clip that from this show. Ducks, that's tough.
Penguins would have lost to the Ducks club hockey team probably on Saturday. So that'd be bring the Pittsburgh Penguins to the Lane Event Center to take on the Oregon club team. That'd be awesome.
Hey,
I'd buy a ticket.
Welcome back.
Hey, thanks.
We're happy to have you back.
Yep.
A lot to get to. It's Washington Wednesday. I'm just going with the alliteration today. 8 o'clock tonight, ESPNU. A chance for Oregon to continue building that resume. Update fans, where is that resume right now? What do the Ducks have to do from here on out to get into the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean there's some conjecture there for sure, but when you wake up Tuesday and Lunardi's got Oregon as the first team out, there were some people that were writing this team off completely in January, saying there was basically zero chance of this being a tournament team, and so job's not done. You don't want to nobody's goal is to be the first one out, but to have scrambled their way back onto the bubble is really something. But now your margin of error is pretty slim still because you're playing. You had this stretch of games against all of the top half of the conference teams. Went 3-2 in those, and that's solid. If somebody'd said, you're gonna lose to Arizona and UCLA and win the other three, probably fairly realistic assessment. You would have liked to steal one of those, but didn't happen. But now you got to take care of business. You played all those top half teams. Now you got a bunch of teams in the bottom half of the standings who are all dangerous, and you can't slip up. Ducks have lost a couple of these teams. So, you really got to take care of business. I don't know if you feel like you got to go 5-0, but you can't go 3-2 again probably.
To give a boxing analogy for this team, it has been hard to deliver the knockout punch for this group, right? You go to Stanford. You lose a tough ball game there, and you respond by sweeping the Mountain Schools. You get housed by Arizona State at home. What do? You respond with the biggest win of the year.
Yeah, a lot of splits.
Late in the fight now. Yeah, I mean, this could be a knockout punch tonight, but give this team credit. They have bounced back, and how have they bounced back from that loss to UCLA at home in practice this week?
Dana Altman said the other day he thought Monday was really good. You're still more than 48 hours out. So, and it was interesting because he said it was a spirited practice, but then he also said that he was doing a lot of cheerleading. So having not been there, you wonder, how much is that? Is there some projection there? Was he upbeat and spirited and having to kind of drag it out of guys, or were they responding well? I think as he would say, all that matters is what happens tonight. So that kind of doesn't matter at this point. So, but I think it's a mature group. It's a veteran group. With some of the guys who've been here a couple years, but then some of the new additions having a lot of experience. These guys are mature enough, I think, to know that you don't get too high after a win, you don't get too low after a loss. Certainly they wish they could have performed more consistently the last several weeks, but there's still time to click in that regard. And there's a great chance these next couple of weeks to really build some positive momentum going into the postseason. So, obviously the desire would be to get to Vegas and feel like you're pretty good for the tournament regardless of what happens there. But even if you just get to Vegas thinking, all right, if we have a solid performance here, we can lock it up. I mean, a solid performance in Vegas, regardless of the circumstances, is what you're looking for anyway. So just kind of, to use that boxing analogy, just keep yourself in the fight. Just keep it going. Don't get caught with your hands down and take one on the chin that you weren't expecting, and then you're out of the fight.
Something that has struck me in my year plus working for the athletic department is just how every program has a rivalry with Washington, but every program has a unique history to that rivalry, a unique culture for that rivalry. This is a series between Oregon and Washington basketball that goes back to the early 1900s. I'm wondering.
I did not cover those games. He was going to ask that, wasn't he?
That was exactly what I was going to ask.
Guy gets me every time.
But take fans into the history of...
Take us back to old Matt
to,
Cord in the 30s.
Take us back to the early 2000s. How about that? What does the history between these two teams mean in hoops?
Oh, man. I think, men's basketball, we're seeing it now consistently across the board with the transfer portal. But men's basketball, there's so much turnover. There's so much roster change. That's been consistently the case over the years. That I think it's pretty rare to get a guy, who really feels a rivalry to the extent that all of us do on the outside. So when you get Peyton Pritchard hitting that shot up in Seattle a few years ago, and you see the raw emotion at what it meant to him to hit that shot against Washington at Washington, it stood out in part because it was a big shot and it was a great moment. It stood out in part because it's kind of rare. It just doesn't. I think because of the turnover, I think, we were talking to another one of our coaches, might have been Kelly Graves the other day, talking to him about facing a rival, and it was like, well, there's turnover now, and it's just hard now. It's not as deep-seated with some kids as it is for those of us externally.
Oh, sorry about that. Rob Moseley, nice enough to join us on Duck Insider. We got more with Rob after this break. Keep on listening. It's the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear winter, Toyota's got 20 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action, and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/22.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
Dear winter, Toyota's got 20 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action, and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/22.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Back here inside the Country Financial Studio, Jordan Brenner hosting Duck Insider. We went to break talking with Rob Moseley about Washington and how much Oregon hates those guys and the rivalry between those two schools. It means something in tennis. That's where we get to next. Rob Moseley, the editor of GoDucks.com.
Now, one guy who it is deep-seated for and who makes sure his players know that is Nils Schalander.
That's what my transition was going to be.
Friday at the Student Tennis Center should be pretty epic.
Yeah. So what's going on at the tennis center? They're bringing the motorcycle in there, and I thought it was great. Coach Schalander really brought an intense energy to this rivalry.
Yeah. If you're one of those who always was really frustrated, when Chip Kelly was head coach here there's no rivalries, faceless opponent. If you always thought that was nonsense, You're going to love you some Nils when it comes to the Washington rivalry because he makes no bones about it. All matches aren't the same. This one means more to him and his program. He loves beating Washington, and I love that about Nils so much. Because first of all, yeah, I like to see Oregon beat Washington too. But the fact that he just owns it and he loves it, and he just wants to beat these guys. So if you're one of those Oregon fans who likes to see a team really embrace the energy of a rivalry and the ferocity of a rivalry, see if you can get yourself out to the tennis match Friday night. The women are at home too, right? So there's a doubleheader. But
baseball opener too.
Baseball opener, yeah. I'm gonna do tennis on Friday, and then I'll be at baseball for both
I'll
games.
see you on Saturday.
And I'm gonna sneak out and take in some lacrosse as well on Saturday. It's a big weekend. It's kind of interesting with having both basketball teams on the road to still feel like there's a ton going on, And softball's obviously competing on the road. Does Acro compete? I think Acro competes this weekend. I mean, there's just a lot going on.
Speaking of men's tennis, get there early because doubles goes first, and that's must see. You got to see these two compete for the Ducks. And quietly, this group has had a really positive start to the season.
Yeah, Quinn and Josh is the #1 doubles team, and they're one of the better teams in the entire country. So they're worth coming and seeing if you're an aficionado of the game. But again, if you're just into kind of the energy of a rivalry, the energy of a matchup, the energy of college athletics, doubles is great because, college tennis is fun regardless, in part because, when it comes to singles, all 6 matches are going on at the same time, and guys are feeding off each other. You'll hear guys shouting to hype themselves up, but they're shouting to hype their teammates up too. And, if there's a sense that another guy's playing well, he can kind of transfer some energy. If a guy's dropping, his teammates can transfer energy to him. But doubles, they're 3 across on the same side of the building. Everyone knows what's going on. It's a race, it's one set, and it's a race best 2 out of 3. So they all have a sense for, okay, hey, we got to pull this one out, or hey, no pressure. The other 2 are going well. And then you have 2 guys on from each team on the court at the same time, and they're woofing at each other, jawing. The passive aggressive banter between teams that happens via the umpire is great. It's like they'll complain as a way of talking trash to the other team. They'll complain to the umpire about something. It's phenomenal. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah, highly recommended.
Okay, so women's basketball as well.
Yeah.
You think about this team, you look at their recent history, and you scratch your head because they could easily have 3, 4, 5 even more wins this year.
Yep.
That you could go either way with that.
Yep.
Right? They could sink a ball club, or you could, take positives from that. How has this team grappled with the reality that, hey, they haven't gotten the job done recently, but they have been right there with some premier programs?
Yeah, I don't think there's any moral victories that way. I mean, I think this is a team that's used to winning, and for as much as they know that the reality this year is they're chasing, they've tried to embrace that, we're the hunter, not the hunted. I think, there is still enough pride in the results this team's put together the last few years to say, no, we should, this should be a tournament team. This should be a team competing for a conference championship. And when you're not doing, you have to ask some really hard questions of yourselves. And I think there has been that, what do we need to be doing different? What do we need to tinker with in terms of rotations, in terms of how we're executing, in terms of systems, offensively, defensively, what have you, because it's just not there. And I keep coming back to, with the Washington State overtime loss here was about the first time it occurred to me that the parts just aren't adding up. The sum was less than the whole of its parts, because you look at player by player and you think, yep, that's a good player, that's a good player, that's a good player, that's a good player. I think we have an edge personnel-wise at this matchup, this matchup, this matchup. So what the coaches do is say, okay, well, if it's not adding up that way, what buttons do we need to push different? Clearly we're not getting the most out of this team. And I think the players are looking at okay, well, why aren't we all on the same page? What, in terms of chemistry, cohesion, whatever, what do we need to find that we're lacking right now that it just we're not executing to the level we should be? So, You know, they've only got a couple weeks now to do that. You know, they've got some games they can win here down the stretch, but unexpectedly they're in a position where they got to win a bunch down here in the next couple weeks to ensure that they can be a tournament team. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these next couple weeks play out, beginning this week in Washington.
So softball gets going last week. I know you haven't had a chance to talk to Coach Lombardi yet. It's busy Wednesday. I'm sure you're headed over to the media availability in a little while.
Yeah.
What's on your mind? What do you want to hear from Coach Lombardi after a weekend of highs and lows, I'd say, for Oregon softball? On the one hand, you go toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the country, but you also suffer a couple losses.
Yeah. Going back to the top, I was heavily occupied this past weekend. I am not in any position to have made a deep dive into those results to say there's something I need to see or some question I want asked. Still very early in their season. You know, they've got a few new parts, particularly in the circle on the pitching staff that are getting their feet wet with this group, with this team, with this coaching staff. So yeah, I'm sure there's still a sense that you gotta bank wins this time of year for sure to set yourself up for the rigors of the Pac-12. You know, if you're in a hole going into conference play, you be in a real bad spot in terms of the postseason. You know, kind of like the men's basketball team, is at now. You don't want to be in that position. But that said, I mean, they've got a lot of games to play, a lot of things to sort out. Far be it from me to suggest I have any hard-hitting questions to ask at this point.
That's fair. We heard from Mark Wasikowski yesterday at his media availability. 4-game series with Xavier this weekend. First chance to see this team, and I guess it's the same thing for softball. We don't know quite yet. We haven't seen them play, but at the same time, when Waz spoke to the media yesterday, you could tell that he has really enjoyed working with this group, and that at the very least, it's going to be a fun team to follow with energy that comes from all over the world for this program.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, they've got players from Japan, from Canada, from Puerto Rico, and so that's an interesting flavor about this team. But yeah, I just think the contrast between how experienced and explosive this offense looks with the question marks on the pitching staff and all the youth that it sounds like we're going to see on the mound. That's going to be really interesting. How those two sides, two elements of the game kind of complement each other, and where this team's at, and how the next few weeks go as it kind of tries to establish its identity, given those two elements.
Rob Moseley, editor of GoDucks.com. Thanks, Rob.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Rob. That's Rob Moseley, editor of GoDucks.com. He's everywhere today. He's here. He was at Matthew Knight Arena talking with women's basketball, at the Jane talking with softball. It's a preview of what's coming up tomorrow on Duck Insider. Let's get a break, come back. I want to talk a little bit of Oregon baseball. 4 games with Xavier starting Friday. Let's go. We'll also hear from Tanner Smith, historic Duck, after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
This is Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Unused prescription opioid pain medicines can spell trouble. They can spell risk if taken by someone they weren't prescribed for, harm if accidentally taken by a child or pet, or overdose if they're not used as directed. Safely dispose of opioids before they can hurt your family. Find a drug take-back option such as medicine drop boxes. You may find these in your community at local pharmacies or police stations. Visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Are you thinking about buying medicine online? A search for online pharmacies yields more than 20 million results. But which ones can you trust? Medicines bought from unlicensed online pharmacies can be dangerous. You may get a fake drug, your condition may get worse, or you may experience a bad reaction. Don't put your health at risk. To learn how to find an online pharmacy that's safe and legal, visit fda.gov/BeSafeRx. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Welcome back inside the Country Financial Studio. Jordan Brenner here with you. Duck Insider brought to you by On Point Community Credit Union. Good show so far. We got you ready for tonight's Tilt with Washington at 8 o'clock. Joey Mack has the pregame show on 7:30. We have some time, though, left over. So I want to start talking a little bit about Oregon baseball. 4-game series this weekend against Xavier. Ducks are ranked in pretty much every poll. Number 20 in the poll that we follow here at Oregon. And quite frankly, I'm excited because we're going to learn a lot about this team. There are so many new faces. According to Mark Wadzikowski yesterday, we're going to have 4 starting pitchers who have 0 combined starts start for the Ducks this weekend. 0 combined starts career for Oregon's 4 projected starting pitchers. Ducks dealing with injuries to Isaac Ayon and R.J. Gordon early on in the season. And still yet, my confidence in this team, and, well, the coaching staff's confidence in this team is pretty high. And that's largely because of a guy like Tanner Smith, who has broken several records already, including a big one. He's the runs ruler, we like to call it here in the athletic department. Tanner Smith, the most runs in Oregon baseball history. And he's also set up to break a whole lot more this upcoming season. To me, you start your team with Tanner Smith, and that's what Oregon's doing this year. You feel pretty good about your chances in any conference and even in the Pac-12. So last year, Tanner Smith, 317, 11 homers, 38 ribbies, and he stole 12 bases. Talk about a 5-tool player. I think Tanner Smith is that. And, well, we had a chance to talk to him yesterday. He talked about his old man strength. He's been here a while. Tanner Smith, good to hear from him. Here he is.
Colby mentioned that this is your 30th season, so congratulations. What are you looking to improve upon the most? I mean, you already have a couple records. You have a couple more in sight. Just for you, what are you looking to improve upon this year?
I mean, there's so much. It's a game that just requires improvement all the time in all aspects. But this year, I really want to really focus on how we handle the postseason. I know it's so far away and how that goes, but I think that's one of the big, things under the microscope is how we're going to handle postseason play and how we can, starts with day one, take off running and really never slow down.
Yeah, how do you hone that mindset then over the next few months?
I mean, honestly, it's just I got to give credit to what we've been doing since day one in the fall. It's taking it one day at a time. It's really just controlling what you can control and, focusing on winning each pitch at each time.
Would you say that's part of the reason you're back? I mean, back-to-back regional appearances, yet to get to a super. Did that light a fire under you?
Yeah, it's definitely a bad taste in the mouth for sure. 2 years in a row just ending like that, and like I've been telling so many of these new guys is once you get that experience and that taste of postseason play, it's like it's addictive. You want to keep going. You want to see what it's like at the next step, and eventually Omaha and see what that's like. And I think that's just constantly going through our heads each day at a time.
The makeup of this team is so interesting. You've got so many proven bats and then some real youth on the mound. Yeah. Just how would you describe kind of the way those two elements of the game kind of complement each other?
It's, like you said, it's two really, really different polar opposites, I would say, from our hitting and our pitching. The one thing in common is the character. I think, both sides of the ball have the passion to win, the passion to compete. And, I'm really excited to see what these newcomers, can kind of do on the mound and kind of, take away from an offense that might be a little bit more experienced.
In scrimmages, you've been hitting second a lot. Just is that the idea of what's going to happen this season? And if so, what's it like having Riku in front of you?
Yeah. Oh, man. Game changing. That guy, just for probably the 20 inter-squad games I've had to be able to play with him it's awesome. To see that kind of game, especially in a Duck uniform, is something special. It's something that's, really rare and something we've never had before. So being able to watch him and kind of play behind him and like you said, hitting behind him is awesome too. Just being able to watch, be able to pay attention to a bat in front of me. It's so cool. It's so awesome.
Got a few guys from different countries on this roster. Waz was talking about it too. What's that like in terms of the personalities meshing, but also maybe styles of play being a little different too?
Right. No, that's a great question. I think it's so brand new. We've never had a locker room, with people from a different country. And so now, having that kind of diversity in the locker room, it's so cool seeing, everybody obviously has a different kind of background and a different kind of, way they came about the game. But seeing how it came from, overseas is really cool. It's honestly been a blessing for sure.
How does that presence, if at all, change your approach? Because if a leadoff hitter is getting on and he can a threat to steal,
right?
It's different than when you're the leadoff hitter and you might be much more willing to swing the first pitch versus now you're taking pitches and trying to allow him to do his thing or get ahead in counts and work counts and do things. It's just different.
It is. You're absolutely right. It's a whole different approach. I'm not going to give away too much of my secrets here, but hitting behind him, that teams are going to worry about stealing. They're going to worry about the stolen base factor coming in the game, and he's going to do a lot of it. And I think that might, change, how they're going to pitch guys that are hitting after him and him being on base so much. It's going to change the game for sure.
We joked about it being year 30 for you, but just how much do you see guys looking to you at this point and kind of, obviously your experience helps you out a lot, but I assume it's a resource for your teammates as well. Right.
Yeah, no, I think, experience is such a big factor, especially with a team that's, got a bunch of youth, like you said earlier. And, I just try to do my best each day to help that experience, help them, to where eventually they're, they have it down themselves. It's like Coach Horton used to always say, it's, after game one, you're not a freshman anymore. It's just your toes are in and you're ready to go. And, that's what I'm really hoping out of this youth is, once the ball gets rolling here, they can just take off running.
Are you proud of your evolution as a power hitter to go from a guy who, is happy to see one go out of the ballpark to,
right.
hitting a ton?
Yeah, no, a little bit, credit to Daryl and credit to them bringing the fences in maybe a little bit might help as well. But yeah, definitely it's, some, like Colby might have said in his head, probably the old man strength is definitely starting to come in. So yeah, it's definitely a proud feeling for sure.
What have you seen this spring from Owen Diodati, Alabama transfer coming in, getting his feet wet out here?
Yeah, huge factor. Unbelievable player. It's a rare bat. He's a talented player and he can really swing it. And, honestly, where I've seen the most growth out of Owen is probably defensively. I think he really came in and embraced Waz, coaching the outfielders, embraced how Waz wants the game to be played from a defensive aspect, and he's really excelled defensively. And, I'm really excited to see the year he's going to have. It's going to be awesome.
Tanner Smith, preseason All Pac-12 selection. Folks, start with Tanner Smith. This guy puts on a show and a leader in the locker room. Everything that Oregon baseball is about. You talk about the investment in strength and strength conditioning, I should say, and working hard, doing it every day, being consistent. That's Tanner Smith. That's his story. To go from a guy, I asked him about this. You just heard it. Who didn't hit home runs. That wasn't his game. And now, I don't know. I say it's possible he hits 15 or more this year. We'll see. Got to get off to a quick start if you want to do that. Hopefully we see a couple bombs this weekend at PK Park. It's supposed to be nice. Sunshine's supposed to be out there. Get your tickets. Would love to see you at the ballpark. Get a break. Come back. Cafe Yum, 2-minute drill. We wrap up after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
More Duck Insider coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. With honest conversations that let them know what we expect. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be shared with friends or family. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. We all make choices about alcohol. Kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations, and they want honest answers in everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path, because when you talk, they hear you. Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Welcome inside the Country Financial Studio Duck Insider, brought to you by On Point Community Credit Union. It's time now for today's 2-minute drill, brought to you by Cafe Yum. We'll start with Oregon baseball, a meet and greet tonight, a really good opportunity to, well, get some discounts, get some good food, and meet the team and coaches. That's tonight from 5 to 7 p.m. at Public House in Springfield. 20% discount on all foods. Great raffle prices. Get out there tonight, and it's a great opportunity to meet some cool figures that you're going to watch at PK Park throughout the spring. Additionally, this is coming a few minutes ago, Oregon women's golf, after winning the tournament yesterday, up to number 3 in the national golf stat rankings. That's pretty good. And lastly, well, tonight at 8 o'clock, Oregon men's basketball till at Washington. Joey Mack has your pregame coverage at 7:30 p.m. Let's get a win on Win at Washington Wednesday. Fun show. Thanks, Scott Mitchell, back in studio. I'm Jordan Brenner. Back tomorrow. Go Ducks, everybody. Beat the Huskies.
Meet Ed, movie buff, animal lover, safe driver.
5 years of driving an ambulance teaches you a thing or two. If people knew what I know, lives could be saved. When I see a car trying to rush past a turning bus, I get concerned. You see, when big vehicles turn right, they have to swing wide to make the turn. And that's a lesson you don't want to learn the hard way. When trucks and buses turn, let's you and I wait.
It's our roads. It's our safety. Visit www.